Thank you all for attending. We're going to definitely keep some time for questions afterwards. Same question to all of you, actually. A quick answer. Where do you get your news from today?
Yeah, so I'm no longer a practicing journalist, so I don't need to follow the news as avidly as my colleagues would. So I skim the headlines, and then I look at articles in my inbox or what friends post on social media, usually. So I follow what I feel I need to follow more.
Okay. Rajdeep?
I read.
Mic. Is there a mic on your seat?
Sorry. Oh, there is one. Sorry. First of all, Hello.
The bottom.
First of all, thank you very much for having us here. This is a wonderful city. Namaskara. And it's easily the most open festival that I've seen out of all the lit fests. So it's wonderful to be here in Bengaluru. Where do I get my news? At 8 a.m. in the morning, I still pick up the newspaper. I still read it. Between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., I am hooked onto my mobile. And at 9 p.m., I watch myself. And since I'm now on an extended sabbatical that may never end, I may never watch that either. So I am very happy to do wherever I pick up news. I don't think we should box people into, do you watch print, TV, digital? We should be multimedia.
I
mean,
Rajdeep, I'm moderating this time. Okay, Anuradha, you judge me later. Where are you getting your news? I think yours.
Hello. Yeah, we can hear me.
So digital, but the sources on digital sometimes are news people, newsmen like Rajdeep, and sometimes news organizations, news media, and newspapers, but on the digital, e-papers, because, and I like to see the e-papers because you get to know who's advertising. So where the money's coming from becomes very clear when you see a newspaper and you see the front page ads and, the big ads, basically.
No, I think, and to pick up from what Rajdeep said, not to judge anyone where they're getting their news, as long as you're consuming the news, and all of you are here because you're readers as well, so we already love all of you. I'm going to ask each of you a couple of questions individually, and then, dig right into a debate. It's called Primetime Mayhem. I've been trying to provoke them into some sort of mayhem, but they're very civilized so far. Rajdeep, in your book, and we know this every election year, right? That ratings determine a lot of what we see on TV, increasingly what we see on digital. This you have called the most one-sided narrative in the history of Indian elections. Can you share a bit more on that?
Look, the fact is, I've written a 500-page book, and 35 pages are on the media, the last chapter. The problem is, more people are focusing on the media chapter than the rest of the book, which tells a lot about how people see the media today. And I think that is because there is a reflection that the media increasingly is facing a serious credibility crisis. The truth of the matter is that more and more people believe that what they're being told on the news is not necessarily the truth. And that may be determined as to which side of the divide we are. I mean, we are a hyper-polarized society. So we want, in a way, the media to reflect our own biases. So if I don't tell you what you don't like, I become biased. We don't want inconvenient truths. And the problem with the 2024 election, and it's been building up over a while, is that increasingly the media is managed by whoever is in power. Because I think there's a larger collapse of conscience. We became, journalists out of conviction. I think now you become journalists out of convenience. And I think that's a big change. So it's very easy to manage the media. And I think that media management is reflected in the way the elections were covered in this. You have Rahul Gandhi who doesn't give interviews, and you have Narendra Modi who gives scripted interviews. Now you choose. I mean, in a democracy, you should be able to confront the media with whatever questions they have, and have open, free press conferences, open, free interviews. That doesn't happen. And unfortunately, if you look at the way the media narrative was, it was heavily biased towards the party in power. Because power is where money is, and the media today almost, hypnotically goes towards where money is. And that's the reality which I try to reflect in the book. And that's the reality. And the NDTV story is a classic story of how the media can be managed and eventually taken over.
Thank you. And we will be coming to a little bit about what's changed in journalism since you all started your careers. I think, Amrita, if we talk about the change in tenor of the news, the change in the media landscape, you have a longer term view. And you said you kind of saw this coming 25 years ago.
Yeah, I actually, I think these days when you talk about what's happened to the media and the fact that it's owned by politicians or there are the sort of powers, political powers that control what the narrative, I have a view that precedes that situation. And I think it started because over the last 50 years, you had the revenue, media advertising has grown 600 times. So from 1 billion in about 1976, it's now 630 plus crores, okay? And I think that the advertiser has been the master puppeteer. And the tone has been set, the formats that we use in TV, and the purpose of the media has been changed because of commercialization. And the political sort of takeover, etc., happened as a consequence of that. I don't see that coming first. I think we weakened the media to such an extent that then it became kind of free for anyone to come and take over. So that's sort of how I see it, a structural reason.
No, I mean, my only worry is, are we only going to bash primetime TV? I mean, there's more to media than just a few television channels. There's a lot of good journalism that also takes place in this country.
Yes,
but to be fair,
let's not make this media bashing only.
No, but Rajdeep, this is primetime mayhem. Read the topic. Primetime
Anuradha has also worked with Rajdeep.
Primetime is also 9 o'clock. So.
No, but Rajdeep, the arc will end on hope. Don't worry. I think, Anuradha, I want to come to you. You've worked in broadcast, now in digital. Can you take us through a little bit of what you've seen in terms of changes in the sort of contours of the landscape and why you're choosing to go digital first now?
So why I'm going to go in reverse. So the YouTube channel I'm running these days is called Anuradha Says, which is my social media handle. I don't have money to create a new brand or a logo. So, I'm plugging the channel, lesson out of Rajdeep's book. But anyway, so very quickly, why? If you go onto that YouTube channel, you will see that the last program or the conversation that I uploaded was a conversation with a gentleman called Anand Teltumde. I uploaded it on December 6th. It was a conversation about Ambedkar, caste, reservation, and where we are. And he also happens to be someone who was one of the 16 co-accused in that infamous and nonsensical Bhima Koregaon case, right? So tell me, have you found it on any newspaper? I mean, of course, newspaper has covered the book, but have you seen this conversation, a 1 hour long television conversation? No. That's why I'm on YouTube. Because I am interested in certain things. My intellectual inquiry is on certain, like the constructs, basic issues which India, 70, 80 years since independence, we are still at the same place, it seems, right? And I'm getting a chance on this channel to be, I don't care. Please come. If you don't want brain rot, come watch my channel because I need your commitment and your intellectual engagement. You don't want it, you don't have time for it, please go watch Beer Biceps. So, no, and he does a great job. But the point I'm making is that there are different audiences, different needs. I know what need I'm serving, and that is what digital is allowing me to do at this point. Amrita made this point about advertising and that kind of attenuating or diluting the power of media. That happened, and that's when the ratings game, the ratings you alluded to, that there was some power then. But currently, where TV news and prime time is concerned, it's not about ratings. It's about being in sync with the establishment, being owned by large corporate houses which have interests way beyond that little news outlet, and so being in sync again with the establishment. We don't even know what wheels are within.
So I want to put this to all of you and to the panel. There was a study I was reading, this is in 2022 though, Lok Niti CSDS report that said the majority of people surveyed had a preference when they were talking about news, people who watch the news, they had a preference for the traditional news bulletin, and yet most of our primetime debate shows end up being sort of yelling. And Rajdeep, not to put you on the spot because you are a primetime news anchor, but do you know when this shift happened? And you can track this over your, map this to your career. When did this start, this kind of shift start? Because we're also seeing now there are less budgets for field reporting. There's a lot more in-house studio production and that kind of manufactured noise almost.
When the business model started collapsing, I mean, the truth of the matter is the government is the biggest advertiser. There was a while when Ramdev was the second biggest advertiser, which is why you never had stories against Ramdev for a very long time. But the truth of the matter is the business model is flailing also partly because we don't truly have any kind of alternate model that has readily emerged. It's all very well to say we are into the digital age. How many digital channels have a revenue model in place?
Absolutely.
Are Indians here, are Bangaloreans willing to pay for good news? Are you willing to subscribe to to channels that will provide you effect? If you pay peanuts, you will get monkeys. You see, you want for 600 rupees to your cable wala, you want 800 channels. It doesn't work like that anywhere else. CNN International gets 60% of its revenues through subscription and 40% through advertising. In India, you have 95% through advertising and 5% through your subscription or even your cover price. How are you? You see, the moment you are willing to pay for quality journalism, the moment all Bangaloreans, all these IT czars, all these startups say, we will put CSR money in a channel or a newspaper, I will leave my current job and join you. Are you willing to do it? Indians are not. You're not willing. The moment there is a paywall on a digital channel, you unsubscribe. How do you then expect a sustainable model? The government knows it. You see, the intelligence, particularly of the present government, is that they know the weak points. They know the weak points of our voters when it comes to religion. They know the weak points of journalism when it comes to bottom line. So they will exploit it unless you're willing to offer an effective alternative model of doing news. New York Times earns more money today from their website than they earn from their newspaper. I want to see the day that happens to an Indian newspaper. That will change the environment.
Yeah, may I say that when I'm talking about the impact of advertising on completely transforming the media, I'm not talking about direct kind of monies and the pressure they can put on to say, let's say positive things about our products. I'm not talking about that or about the kind of finances that you're talking about. I'm talking about the fact that advertisers want an atmosphere, an environment in which people will buy. And so they want positivity. Now, news is disturbing. The news of a famine, of people dying, of violence, all that disturbs. When you have fights between people, it's like WWF. The hurt is mitigated. Because I really want to say, when people keep saying it's too expensive to do news, I really don't understand it. To send a field reporter out if there's a an accident happening, how much does it cost to send someone out with a camera and an audio thing? Vis-a-vis having 6 people come to your studio. Is it really so expensive?
Yeah, it is, Amrita. I don't know. It really so expensive is, of course, relative. But let's say you want to do a quality documentary on Manipur, a story that's getting completely lost in the headlines. You want to send a reporter, producer, camera person to Manipur for 15 days. It'll cost you a couple of lakhs, if not more. To get 6 nutters to shout at each other costs nothing. I mean, zero, literally zero.
No, do you not?
I mean, the same monk. It is what I call it is what I call now, Amrita, the Ravan school of journalism, because one day you'll have 100 heads popping out of your TV screen. So it's so much easier. It's a low-cost way to do news.
I suggest that it hurts the commercial interest, because to bring in anything disturbing, it costs in terms of the drop of advertising revenue. The cost is not of sending a person out. Newspapers did journalism on shoestring budgets forever. So I think that one should actually...
No, it's not just budgets, Amrita, it's also conscience. If you became a journalist, it's your bloody duty to go to Manipur and report Manipur. You see, then you should forget it. I agree with you at one level. Look, even if it costs you 10 lakhs to do Manipur, you see, you're willing to spend 10 lakhs to do a music concert, right? You'll spend even more. Journalists and journalist organizations were not designed to create music concerts. Journalists and journalist organizations were designed to tell the story as it is, good, bad, and ugly. And I don't believe advertisers are telling you don't do disturbing stories. Let's not pass the buck on to advertisers. We, the journalists, have lost our conscience and our morality. The moral compass is ours.
I think there's one...
Let's not pass the buck.
No,
That's
one
my
second.
point.
I think...
And particularly those who are owners. I mean, if you're owning an oil rig, you're owning telecom, you're owning an airport, you are completely linked to government. How are you going to ever have the guts to show the mirror to the same person who you're doing deals with by night? By day you'll do journalism, by night you'll do deals with them. Not possible. And how many journalists protested when Adani's took over NDTV? How many journalists said what's happened is wrong? Because we've lost the courage to speak out. We should have had the courage at least to say, no, this is wrong. When Prannoy Roy was stopped at an immigration in 2018, by the same person who, as I say in my book, came to me on an airport and said, sir, please tell him, I'm very sorry, it was not my choice. People from above told me that he has to be stopped and not allowed to leave the country. The person who initiated India's TV revolution is stopped by some immigration official because the bosses of this country want it that way, and nobody in journalism can say, sorry, that's not done. If we've lost our voice, we should do something else. We should do PR. We should stop doing journalism. That's the problem. So let's not blame the advertiser. Let's not blame the advertiser. Blame ourselves.
Let me ask Anuradha to come in here. When we look at, and just taking a step back from this, though obviously what you said has touched a chord, Rajdeep, I do want to say, Anuradha, when people equate, and when I was at Twitter, for example, advertisers, by the way, Rajdeep would come and say, we want the eyeballs news is bringing us, but we want brand-safe content. So can you give me non-disturbing safe news?
How can news be brand-safe content?
Exactly. So Anuradha, and I'm going to put this to everyone, what is your reaction? And someone has told this to me from one of the big tech companies, that there's no difference between news and other content. I'd love to hear all of your take on that.
Starting with you. There's no difference between?
What's the difference between news and any other content? Content is content.
Well, news is about reality. News is about capturing what is going on in the world around us for what it is and shining the light on it. Content is not that. Beer Biceps does content, and I keep bringing him up because he's so successful, and the establishment is speaking to him because the youth are listening to him, and that's great. We need that. But that's not journalism. That's content. What is journalism? Journalism, and one of the biggest changes that have happened along with all these big macro changes, is the fact that the editor has been made redundant. Why do I still look at an e-paper? I might consume it digitally, but I look at the e-paper to see how the news is being positioned by an editor on the front page. On the editorial pages, what are they picking up to put their weight behind, okay? The lack of an editor is where content creation lacks an editor. Okay, and what is an editor? Some discretion, some experience, some understanding of what journalism is meant to do and offer. Content creation is I need to engage you, make you a little happy, give you some new food for thought and get out. I will not pick up terribly disturbing stories. I will not bring up the reality. I just did a conversation with Chetan Bhagat in the morning. He has a new self-help book out. He begins his first chapter by talking about 3 classes. Okay, he says, when you go out as a young person, the elite, the middle level, and then the large majority of people who have nothing. He's completely removed, he's divorced realities of caste, region, religion. It's sanitized. So content creators are sanitized. They're looking to give you some food for thought. But that's not journalism, and that's because they don't have the benefit of editors.
Amrita and then Rajdeep. And I just, add on to that question by saying what happens
if the... one clap?
Yes, one, yeah. Well played. What happens, and just to add to that, what happens when the fourth estate, as Rajdeep is saying, is already compromised? What happens when news gets treated just like content and we lose editors and editorial curation?
Yeah, I think everything that Anuradha just said is pretty much what I'm saying, that what I see is the media has become this very large machine that is increasingly aimed towards marketing, either drawing information from the consumer to market or to give content that kind of helps you market certain things. And the good journalism, and there are many good journalists in this country, and very fine and very brave ones, it becomes they're occupying a shrinking space, and soon it'll be like they will only be accessed by the elite. Because what has happened is that, again, and I have to say that I don't blame the advertiser. I think this is the reality, that there is a structural shift post-liberalization, within which you moved, your purpose of the media was moved towards trying to get advertising revenue, and then changed itself and brought in many formats and brought in entertainment as a prime factor. So when you have this very small sort of segment that will do good journalism, of course they will, and there's a need for it, but it's not what the media was thought of. The fourth estate was thought of for everyone. But today, if the advertiser is only interested in those who can buy things, the affording class, then you are going to have proliferation of channels on the stock market and very little about the poor, because they can't really afford to buy the products that you're thinking of. So I see that you're addressing the consumer, not the citizen. This has been said by many. I'm not, it's not my formulation. And so it cannot play the role it was intended to.
No, I just wanted to make a point. I mean, I think on a hopeful note, the most watched Hindi news website is a site I'm briefly associated with. I do one program with them called Lallan Top. You go anywhere in North India, right? You go anywhere in North India today, everyone, young, old also, are watching Lallan Top. You see, these are imperceptible changes. The viewer, the consumer wants better. You see, he or she, more importantly she, in today's point, wants better. And it is a huge success. So therefore, and it's by the same India Today group also. So, let's not also bash everyone and say everyone is terrible. There's a lot of good stuff also that goes out there. And by contrast, India's biggest newspaper group says we won't do book reviews. We don't do books. Just think about the astonishing nature of that statement. Now, is it because the consumer doesn't want books? Are you telling me the people who have come here are not interested in literature? Who are you as an owner or an editor to decide what the viewer of... you give people quality, they will come to you. You give peanuts, you will get monkeys. You see, the fact is this television has destroyed its moral compass. That's why people are looking for alternate sources of getting media. That's why Lallan Top is so successful, because all the mainstream Hindi channels, Amrita, night after night, are doing Hindu-Muslim bullshit. And that people are saying enough of this crap. In fact, my biggest problem, this prime time mayhem, since that's the topic, is not owner. It is what we have done in bringing the worst in us out. That when a person last year, that railway police constable went around a railway train, I tried to identify Muslims by the way they looked and shot at them. He did it because when he was asked, "Arey, wo to sab TV pe to ye sab Pakistan se aate hain." So TV is demonizing the Indian Muslim to the point where someone uses a gun to fight. Is this what we want from journalism? People must reject such channels. People must reject such news and go to better platforms. You do it, they will all have to follow.
They'll follow.
Reject them.
Okay. Thank you. So one more question from me, and then we're going to take some audience questions. So there is this, globally you're seeing a trust deficit in the media, the way it's not business as usual anymore. Rajdeep was just pointing out a lot of the news now is so polarized, focusing on divisive issues and sensationalist. So one last question from me before we open to the audience is, do you think we are now, sort of the genie, there's no going back to this era where there was balanced reporting? Was that ever really a balance? In the US, we're seeing this my facts, your facts. That's kind of crossed the board to the whole world, where people are saying we'll choose the channels based on the politics of the journalists. So I'd like to ask each of you if you think we can ever go back to an era where you have more central or non-judgmental reporting. Maybe Rajdeep, Anuradha, then Amrita.
We have channels which make Fox blush. We have Fox News on steroids in this country. And it's happening across the world. So, I mean, hyperpolarization is a reality, because people increasingly now get all their news on the mobile. So I don't want my basic headlines, I want news plus. When I joined journalism in '88, I was told by my editor, you have opinions, please keep them on the edit page, news pages will be news. Now I'm encouraged, yaar, thoda sara opinion zyada kar do. Because then people are attracted to opinionated journalists, not news journalists. So the reporter, poor fellow, has lost out. A poor lady, the women are better reporters than men. But the fact is, women, reporters have lost out. And opinion has taken over. That's not going to end. That's a business model that is there. But there are alternatives. I come back to it. There are better alternatives. Do we care enough about the news, about journalism, to look for those alternatives? Or are we going to come here, tali baja diya, kuch bol diya, and we go back to watching the same crap? You see, that's the choice you and I have to make. Do you want Hindu-Muslim? Do you want polarization? Ek Maulvi ko rakho, ek Pandit ko rakho, and they shout at each other about the Place of Worship Act? Or do you want intelligent legal voices to tell you what is the Place of Worship Act? You have to decide. Do you want to know the story of a farmer suicide, a widow, her plight? Or do you want to know batenge to katenge and a full debate for 1 hour on all? You decide. The power is in your hands. You have the remote control. Start using it wisely. Otherwise, journalists will only follow the herd. And that process will, in this environment, with this kind of politicians, will get even worse. I think.
No, I think the question is do you see, I don't see it easily. I mean, look at what Elon Musk is tweeting on a daily basis at an organization you worked with and you know very well, Amrita, formerly. X, that's the media, which means that anybody says whatever you want on it, and that is it. There is no filter, there's no editor, there's no reportage. It's what you believe. So, am I hopeful? No, not really. I've this YouTube channel, and no, I'm not plugging it, but it is a case study. It's been on for over a year. I earned 100 rupees as a super thanks from one person, okay? So there are ways and means that you can do it. So social media has democratized platforms. I am available for people to see. So is Lullen Top, so are a lot of people. And you have to find them and you have to support them, like Rajdeep says. The ball is in your court. We will all do what we think, but it may not be in the mainstream, in the corporate-backed organizations. You're not going to get...
but Anuradha, the truth is, even if you want your video to go viral, you have to say something so extreme.
Yeah.
Either you have to bash Modi all the time,
or you have to wrestle with, or you have to wrestle with.
Or you bash Rajdeep.
One sec. But Rajdeep, he has a very important point here. Who was that? The India wrestling head who was
Brij Bhushan Saran Singh.
Brij Bhushan Saran Singh. You were wrestling with him because you feel the pressure. You feel the pressure to be marketable.
You will not be allowed. No, she cannot get away with fake news.
How is
she
it
cannot
fake
get away
news?
with fake. 1 minute.
How is it fake
news?
news?
I did an interview with him.
Yeah.
After the interview was over, please get it right, because you see, this is how fake news spreads. I did an interview with Brij Bhushan Saran Singh. After the interview, I posed for a photograph with him. He and me arm wrestling. Photograph. I was not arm wrestling with. I put out a photograph telling people that you will get the interview here. Now, you want to call that...
No, but that's the pressure of marketing, isn't it?
I don't think so.
I thought it was a nice moment. Being mindful, both of you can talk together later. Amrita needs a few minutes to make a point, and then we're looking at hands. I need one woman to raise a hand at least. Chalo, wahan pe beech mein, and then this front, and then
We can just start with it.
Are you sure? Okay. Be careful what you wish for. I was like, guys, there should be some drama, but...
Okay, just so that this happens really smoothly, we don't want a point of view from you. That's why you're not on the panel. We only want a question from you. So introduce yourself and give us your question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Krishna here. So my question is to Rajdeep. In this age of primetime mayhem, you've come out with your own YouTube channel, which is with a straight bat. So could you give us, your philosophy of starting this and what's been your experience? And also we see similar channels like The Print, which is happening.
That's really nice.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
And can you pass that mic to the girl in the there? You can take the mic till then. Rajdeep, you want to answer that?
Very quickly, I have my Saturday mornings are my own, so I just sit and say what I think at that moment. It frees me of the gilded cage that a TV studio is. I find a TV studio a bit of a gilded cage. I find almost digital at one level liberating, so I do it every morning, but I don't know how long I want to do any of this actually, to be very honest. I just want to do my own little number.
So,
no, I don't think it's an alternative, but it is another space.
The supplement maybe. Okay.
Hey, hi. So my question is like to all the panel people. So you said that once the audience starts paying, then the journalists will start moving towards the model where it's a neutral journalism because audience are paying. They are no longer the advertiser. So my question is, there are still some other independent news mediums on YouTube like News Laundry. I subscribe for it. I think a lot of people do. It's doing a great job. But apart from that, do I need such journalists who only come to a neutral topic of news when we pay instead of their own credibility? Because it's not credibility now, it's money again. It's coming from a different source.
Oh, so this model shifting to subscriptions. Does anyone want to take a stab at answering?
No, so what's the,
So the question is, can I trust a journalist who only shifted to this model because now a lot of people are paying for it? Again, it's money because money is funded there instead of doing it when there
no,
is
but these are individuals, right? That's where the difference is.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's everybody here, if you subscribe, it's
Yeah.
not one person's view. You may have a certain outlook, or, when you zoom out, you might get that picture that this audience prefers XYZ kind of coverage. But the control that you have is not the way, a large advertiser or a government could have on the media outlet.
No, my question is that's
Okay.
correct, but the credibility is not, the journalist is no longer credible.
You're not
because-
standing on credibility. It's because the revenue is coming in from the subscriber
Yeah,
versus
now,
someone else.
currently it is from some large organization instead of audience, but now
So how
where
does
the
that
money
dynamic?
is, people will go there. Those are not credible. Those
So
are
the
not credible
dynamic-
journalists
Amrita
for
can
me.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to answer it directly, but I think that perhaps what you're saying is that there was something called a public space earlier, where journalists had a role, and people respected their. If you were interviewed by someone, you gave because it was a public sort of. It was not a private commercial activity. It was seen as something related to democracy, to government, and that perhaps has disappeared because now everyone is solo and marketing in a sense, right? And you have no choice because you're directly going to the consumer. So I think that is again, I would say, the same process. It's a structural shift.
Ma'am, there should be a... Ma'am, it can't be a...
Okay.
Yeah, Anand here. My question is, you talked about it almost like you have sanitized journalism from society. What is it that truly people on the ground want is also reflected in many of these, this thing, right? It's not like we're completely sanitized. A lot of people want to hear this kind of content because deep within they believe in this stuff. And it's not just that you are just having a completely sanitized thing, you can control us.
Can you pass this? Okay, there's a gentleman here and there's a girl right behind him. Can you take these two together and then we can weigh in on that? Questions only, please.
I didn't know that Beer Biceps is called as a journalist. He's normally known as Mr. Bobblehead. So my question is for Rajdeep. You mentioned that model that we need to have a subscription model. So how do you explain how SenGupta has managed to survive with print.in? He seems to be doing all those Manipur things what you are saying, and he can send the journalist over there, and they are doing a really good job. I know
print is
Jyoti
doing-
Yadav is one of them, but how do you explain that?
And
No,
can you pass
A-
your mic back to this girl here? Last question.
You see, it's one of those myths that journalists have not gone to Manipur from TV or mainstream media. That's not true. B, it's survival. It's not a robust model as yet in this country that can last over a sustained period of time. Hopefully, it's the start of better things. I hope that eventually there are, as I said, a subscription-driven model is created. But the the essence of the medium at the moment is such that the business model is struggling to survive. And that is a recognition that we have to have, that unless that business model is revived, I don't see how journalism in its truest form will return to some kind of more robust form of journalism. It's not as if 50 years ago journalists were doing a great job also. Let's not also glorify the past. There are lots of young journalists today who do a better job of journalism than many of us did 30, 40 years ago, using technology. I refuse. It's just that it's far more difficult now. You have less protection. A journalist was arrested for exposing the UP government on a midday meal scheme. I mean, what kind of a country is it?
One last question.
And none of you will shout, will you come out on the street with me when I protest for that journalist?
I think...
That's my problem.
I think they might.
You have to
Rajdeep.
invest in good journalism.
Okay, one last question, just in the interest of time.
Since you are a podcaster, so what do you think of...
I did not plant that question, yes. Go
So,
on.
what do you think of someone like a Joe Rogan, who has such a great, big audience?
Oh my God. Firstly, I have been shown the Joe Rogan podcast several times to basically the new wave, the new age of how you can actually grow your audience. I think my challenge is having left journalism, and I say like I'm a journalist, I'm a lapsed journalist. I've always been looking for ways to continue what I found to be the best part of journalism, which is, as we were talking earlier today, going and doing interviews, talking to people, storytelling. Joe Rogan, of course, is a huge business model, the most popular podcaster in the world, monetized heavily, apparently played a role in swinging the US elections. So ask me in 10 years if that model works out. But I do think we need more, not less forms, right? We need more independent media. We need more independent journalists. And I think as consumers, or customers, or people, or individuals, we need more options as well.
You know, this gentleman made a point, that you're reflecting, how can you sanitize the news? I'm not calling for sanitization, but please think about it. Is journalism meant to bring out the worst in us or the best in us? During both.
It shows a mirror.
So for example, this WhatsApp university in this country, the day before the Maharashtra elections, WhatsApp's going across thousands of WhatsApp groups that Waqf board is going to take over the Siddhi Vinayak temple. Is it the job of journalists to bust that or to amplify that? No, please, you see, this thing that, so if I feel that Muslims should be demonized in this country, meaning I as a citizen, should the TV channel be reflecting the worst in us or the best in us? There should be only one holy book, the constitution of the country. That's what journalists should be standing for. Not the street. That's not for journalists to do. You may reflect it, but that cannot be the basis of journalism. And that is precisely the spiral which you have allowed us to go to. People want it. You're doing it because people want hate. Hate sells. Pyar baatna mushkil hai, nafrat baatna asan. You're telling me nafrat baato. Why should I? I will not. I reject it.
Yeah. But wasn't the business of news about gathering facts? Today, everything is about what do you feel. Okay, so that I think what the lady was talking about, a neutrality or a public space, it's not just reflecting, it's also this binary that everything has to be a, what do you feel? It's not about what is. Some things are. There are two tables here. There's no, what do I feel about it?
So I think you can tell Amrita was the only one who was not in TV news by how civilized she's been throughout. I appreciate each and every one of you for the expertise you bring. Incredible audience. Buy all of their and my books.
She just called us uncivilized.
Thank you so much. You guys have been awesome.